Hello, everyone. It's Monday evening. A very good evening to all of you. It's 7 o'clock here in the UK. It's early Tuesday morning in Manila, and I do hope that some of you are still up and joining us live today. Um, this episode of Ask the Drummer is a really special one because, first of all, I mean, he's my guest is actually in the current lineup of the Wild Swans, and as many of you know, I mean, Philippine New Wavers love the Wild Swans. So this is going to be really exciting for us. And even though he's more well known as a guitar maestro, uh, he is a drummer too. So that's the reason why I asked him to be here because because ever since I found out that he's also a drummer, I just thought, oh, I've got to get him on as the drummer. And I'm really, really excited about this one because I saw him last night. It's absolutely amazing. So, my dear friends, please welcome Ricky Maymi.
Hello.
Yay! Or Ricky Miami.
Uh, Whatever you like. But yeah, Graham called it Miami. Some people,
Yeah.
one time I
How are
walked
you?
in Sweden and all these girls counted to three and said, Ricky Miami. It was really funny. So embarrassing.
Have you rested
I didn't have the
from
heart to correct them either. So I just thought, yeah,
I
all right.
don't know. No, it sounds really good. And it sounds really good when he said Miami.
With that accent, it's like, and he was so confident. He's like, in his mind, that he was absolutely correct. So a
Yeah.
lot to be said.
Yeah. So, have you rested from last night's event? So you had a
Oh,
good rest.
I've just been trying to rest from the last sort of 2 years of my life, really, but, but okay. I'm just permanently exhausted, And
I bet you are, because you seems like I don't even know where you are, because on Facebook it's like you're in Australia and then back in
yeah,
California, and then
yeah, so, yeah. Sometimes
yeah.
like in the morning, and I have to work it out. Like, oh yeah, I'm in Scotland. That's right. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, well, this is just really amazing because I'm so excited about this because
Well,
we're,
nice
we're
to see.
not really no, we haven't been sort of like Facebook friends for long,
Well, we're
but
real life.
yeah,
We've been.
yeah, but I keep sort of like sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying we're friends in real life. We see each other at shows.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And I keep seeing your before I saw like added you on Facebook. I sent you a friend request. I was sort of like keep seeing your name, and because I know that you're in the current lineup of the Wild Swans.
Right.
I was like, "God, I've got to sort of like be friends with.
Oh well, everybody's got to be friends with somebody, right?
Yeah,
So,
but yeah. Well, anyways, you were amazing last night.
oh, great.
Really, really good.
That was an amazing night of music, wasn't it? That was really, you know, that's band Sister John is really unique, and Graham is killer. That band is killer, and Chris Thompson, the Bathers is a really interesting, beautiful band too. With some
Yeah.
character. So it's just a great night of music. Putting those three bands on a bill, and getting to be a part of the gig is a really sweet bonus. You know,
Yeah.
I'd be
And
happy to be in the audience and hang out. You know what I mean? But I'm also quite happy to get up there and be in amongst it all too. So
well, I gotta say, you are the sort of like the coolest musician that I've ever met because like before we went in to the venue to Webster's, we saw you outside,
mm.
and I mean for someone so like you're Ricky Maymi, but then when you saw the orchids, you were like a fan.
I'm a fan of music, you see, and that's the only way anything ever happened for me in the first place was just being that into music, just like you are. But
Yeah.
I grew up with musicians who also took a crack at you know doing it professionally. Some getting a bit further than others with it, but kind of growing up with that going on,
Yeah.
it seems like a natural progression. It didn't seem like a way of rebelling or anything like that. It's just I was
Yeah.
just doing what I knew. I was
Well,
reacting
I
to
think
experience, of examples in life. So, and I've always been around people who really love music,
Yeah.
connect with it on a deep level. So I too do the same. And, you know, I never stopped being a fan or collecting records, getting excited about a new record coming out or a band coming to town, or, I'm just as
Yeah.
nerdy about anything like that as anybody else is. 13-year-old kid who just got into rock music last week or whatever it is. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's key. Because a lot of people aren't really that way. People in music, they're kind of
No.
they don't do that anymore or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, man, what's
Well,
your you know
well, I was gonna say,
what
for
get there in the first place? Really? It's like
Oh,
don't forget where you came from or something like that.
that is, yeah, that is true. That
Yeah.
is true, definitely. But
And
anyways,
I
yeah.
digress.
Well, before we carry on, I just wanted to say hello to Jenny Stevenson. She's joined us. Hello, Jenny. Uh, and Trevor Palmer also joined us. And can you hear us okay? Yeah. Yeah.
Me, yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Aiden O'Rourke, he's my my tech support, my husband. He said sound and vision A-OK, which is good. And Mark Serrano is at Hey Ricky.
Oh yeah, great. Hi, Mark. Mark's a
Yeah.
mate of mine. He's an old mate of mine. He's a great guy. I still think of him as a kid. I was about to say he's a great kid. And we're like, hang on a minute, he's not a kid. No, I'm not a kid either. He's not a kid any more than I am. Who am I kidding? but I always remember him from when I met him. So many years ago.
All right.
So
Well,
I still see the young man. I just saw him the other night at 11 Rockets, and I still see the young man in there. It's great. Yeah, here's Mark. Having an iron brew for us here in Scotland.
Oh yeah, that's sort of like a very Scottish thing to do, sort of like drinking iron brew, right?
Yeah, it's the obligatory iron brew of the trip.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so welcome to Ask the Drummer.
Thank you.
Episode 82 is all about you, Ricky, or Ricky Maymi.
Whatever you like.
Yeah. So I noticed that you just posted a gorgeous photograph of your mom and yourself.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's like a black and white photo, and it says that it's in Nicaragua. Is that where you were born?
I wasn't born there, no, but my father was raised there. He's a Puerto Rican kid raised in Nicaragua, but he actually had been born in New York, so he had an American passport, but he was raised down there. So that's, who he was. And so we were down there with him once or twice.
Okay, but where were you born?
I was born in San Francisco.
San Francisco, okay. So what was it?
St. Luke's Hospital in the Mission District on Army Street, where Valencia and Mission meet, or something like that. Yeah, Guerrero. Yeah. I can't even remember anymore. It's been so long.
So what was it
that's
like?
Jem. That's Jem barking over here. So I'm sitting out in the garden now, having a smoke.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful garden. Yeah.
Lovely Scottish countryside garden. Why not? Jem, be a good girl now, Jem. There we go. Anyhow.
So what was San Francisco like when you were growing up?
Well, when I was growing up, it was great because, people weren't moaning about how expensive everything was. People, if they needed an apartment, they just got one. If you needed a job, you just get one. It wasn't a competitive, sort of stressful, desperate survival mode city like it has become and like it started to become in the 90s. In the 90s, we could already see that our days were numbered. It was going to turn into something else that we weren't going to be, that wasn't going to gel with us as we were, So, what that means is you just got to get up and go somewhere else, ultimately, unless you don't mind stomaching the gentrification and paying to stomach it as well. You know what I mean? It's like, I was happy to leave. And more everyone else is too. And I have all these friends. Oh yeah, Ricky, I finally left San Francisco, and I thought you had such a wrong attitude about it, but now I feel just like you. It just took me 5 years longer or 10 years longer. But so it's more and more I find that all my friends who are from there or living there, they're not there anymore. I know very few people there.
Okay, well,
States. Yeah.
I think there are lots of Filipinos in San Francisco, aren't there?
I don't know any of them.
Oh, you
I know Mark, but he's in Vacaville or something like that, I believe.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. So there
Well,
you go.
I believe you are from a musical family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
My
tell us
uncle.
more about? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have these rock and roll uncles. One of them is no longer with us. Vince Welnick. He was in the Tubes. They had a song called "White Punks on Dope," and they had a song
Yeah,
called "Don't
yeah,
Touch Me There," and "What Do You Want from Life," and "Prime Time," and all these great hits,
yeah.
And then he after that, he was sort of headhunted by Todd Rundgren to play in his band for a while, and then he joined the Grateful Dead. And so
Oh,
he
wow.
had a pretty interesting career there. Yeah, and my other uncle Ed, he was in this cool band for a while that started this band with these guys called Zolar X, who were like aliens from outer space in the early 70s. Really
Yeah,
exciting, interesting, fun music. And then later on, he after that, he started a band that was called the Push-Ups, and they did sort of like
which
Beatlesque
sorry,
power
this
pop.
one,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the
this,
one. Yeah, you
yeah,
got it. Yeah,
yeah,
Beatlesque power pop, Mini Moog, Skinny Tie, that whole thing. Really great songs though, and forward-thinking lyrics. Really great. It's interesting to hear it now in the context of now that they were sort of seeing what was just beyond the horizon there somehow.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's kind of neat for me to grow up with all that, and so the obvious thing was, try to
yeah. Well, Aiden
you have
said,
this kind of life myself, somehow.
well, I know you, so like all over the place. So you don't seem to have like that's proper rock
Yeah,
and
well,
roll. It's
there's a
like
lot of reasons for that too, though.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
life. People in your life are happen to be where they happen to be, and
yeah,
you've got
yeah.
to be there. So
Well, Aiden said that he loves the Tubes, especially Prime Time and Todd Rundgren. I saw the light. So yeah,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I've actually got one of their albums, the Tubes, and I do have Prime Time, so like colored vinyl. I think there's a single,
okay,
so like
yeah, yeah,
several.
yeah. I know the one you
Yeah, I
mean, the
think I've got a
British
yellow
press.
and I've got a white one as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there's different. Oh, they did like 4 or 5 different colors, and then they did a
yeah.
multicolored one. I have the multicolored one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's on my
Yeah.
my bucket list just to get one of each color. I'm aware of those. Yeah, because they've really
Okay.
pushed
Well,
that
if I
single in the
see,
UK.
well, if I see
You
another
of all
so
people probably will see them actually.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
'Cause I know that I've got a yellow and I've got a white. So if I see another copy of it, I'll get it for you.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Trying to remember your friend Ricky, the
yeah,
record. Thanks again for
yeah.
those J-pop 7 inches. They were beautiful.
Oh,
Mm.
well, I'm glad that you like them. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I love
so
that kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, well, you're a multi instrumentalist.
Mm.
Um, but which instrument did you learn first?
Right. Well, my first instrument was actually a plastic electric guitar. It was a gift from my Uncle Vince from the Tubes when I was 7. So I used to fool around on that for a bit. And then, but then I got it in school when I was a few years later, when I was 10, I started playing the recorder in school. And then I moved on to the clarinet, which was great. And then from clarinet, I moved on to the tenor saxophone. And
Oh
from
God.
there, I started playing the double bass in school. So I was in 2 music classes at school. I was playing tenor sax in one orchestra and double bass in another in school. And
Wow.
so I got to spend a lot of time in music lab, which was good because evidently I was a disruptive child at school, not because of my behavior so much, it's just my appearance. I was distracting the student body from concentrating on their work because I was too far out when I was 13. So they were like, yeah, you can get up and go to the music lab whenever you want and practice. Okay, great. I'll go do that right now. So I would go do that. I was in there all the time. Yeah. So, and then I started playing the electric bass around this time. And then from there, I just started picking everything up a bit, because people would come over and jam and they'd leave their drum kit and things like that, So I'd set up the drum kit and I'd play along to my Susie and the Banshees records or Japan records or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I'd learn how to play drums by playing what Budgie was playing, or by playing what Steve Jansen was playing, or Pete DeFreitas echoing the Bunnymen. So I was learning to play drums to these sort of what turned out to be quite seminal post-punk records, but at the time were just sort of, one of many cool records that were out that didn't really had yet to reveal the potency and long-lasting effects of their influence, shall we say. So but that was what I definitely cut my teeth on as a drummer, was this kind of post-punk idiosyncratic drumming, because those guys weren't keeping straight beats. Those guys, none of those drummers were, you know what I mean? They weren't they weren't just standard rock drummers. None of them were like a Charlie Watts type or even a Ringo type. So yeah.
But you didn't have any drumming lessons, so you just sort of like
those were my drumming lessons. Studying those records and figuring out for myself what was going on, just based on how I understood a drum kit to work, So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Can I just ask you, which instruments do you feel most comfortable playing it? So, I mean, because this is the Ask the Drummer.
Yeah. It depends, I mean, from there I got into using analog synths and fooling around with that stuff, because my Uncle Ed from the Push-Ups had a bunch of stuff like that too. So, and I would borrow gear from the Tubes, recording equipment. So I was kind of learning it all at once. I just took the whole thing on. Yeah. I just wanted to learn a bit of everything at the same time.
How old were you then? How old were you at the time?
13, 14.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what I feel most comfortable on, it depends on the situation. It depends on who I'm playing with, what we're trying to accomplish, or what it is we have to do. If it's a performance, or if we're making a record, or what it is. It depends on, what the situation is. Sometimes, I'm more comfortable playing guitar because, I mean, I guess I've got more hours clocked in doing that than anything else at this point in time. But in certain circumstances, playing the drums feels quite natural, and like the right thing to do as well. So and it's not that unusual to find myself behind the kit, recording with someone, or rehearsing with someone, or doing some gigs with someone playing drums. It comes up. It does come up.
Well,
if you look on Discogs, and you look at my record release history,
your entry,
you'll see that I play drums on quite a few records.
Yeah, but because this is Ask the Drummer podcast, so we're gonna be sort of like concentrate, or we'll be talking more about your drumming career.
Right, right. That's fine.
And then we'll talk about the other things as well. But
okay.
What was your first band where you're the drummer of that band?
That's a good question. Actually, it was Brian Jonestown Massacre, funnily enough. But it was short-lived. I didn't do any recording on drums with them. I only played the sort of first 2 or 3 concerts as the drummer, destroying the kit every time, literally. So so that couldn't go on. So I moved on from that. I became a better drummer later. But I did do the odd bit of recording, I think, on some drums for some early PJM stuff, just like floor tom and snare, kind of Jesus and Mary Chain style or whatever. But later on that I sort of took it on a bit more seriously in bands. So I was playing drums in bands in San Francisco, a band called Broom, a band called Panda, a band called Del Vellum, who did a 7-inch. All those bands did 7-inches, actually. What else? From there, you just end up doing it. I did drums on an album with this artist, Leslie Satterfield, under the name J Mod, like letter J dash Mod. Did all the drums on that album, and then did some drums. It's hard to remember it all. Let's see. Did some drums for on the Imaginary Friends album. Did most of those drums. Did the drums on the last LSD and the Search for God album, or EP, or whatever it is. Did a bunch of gigs with them as well. And I did some drumming for Flavor Crystals as well on that tour. And also played drums with Kool-Aid Electric Company, Who else was I playing drums with?
And that's the photo that I saw on your Facebook
Yeah,
page. You
that's
were
right.
playing
Yeah,
with
I did
drums.
it. I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
some shows with them in the UK, and oh yeah, of course. What? How can I forget this? I played drums in a band in China called
yeah.
Baihu
By
from
who? That's right.
from
Yeah.
from Beijing, and I'm the drummer. And yeah, so I played drums
And
with them. We did it.
didn't you sort of like do some drumming on the Wild Swans album as well, like the hundred?
Actually, yeah, there is
Yeah,
one song on Coldest Winter that I play the drums on.
yeah, yeah.
And
But,
it's not
but
mentioned. Somehow it's not mentioned on there. But
well, because it's
but there's
got Steve Bassett as the
well,
drummer there.
because he
So
was the drummer. But on this one particular song, there was some reason he wasn't in the studio that day, and we were running short on time, and it was just kind of the moment. You know what I mean? We were capturing a moment, so it was
yeah,
we just wanted to get this butterfly in the net kind of thing, and the kit was set up and mic'd, and I was right there, and I could just hear it. So I was like, well, let's just try this out real quick. And I got behind the kit, and Richard Turvey, keyboardist, hit record, and I just got through the song, start to finish. And he said, "Mate, that's it. That you just nailed
oh,
it." So
brilliant.
we just ran with it. So that's it.
Yeah.
And that's the song "Chloroform." I think it's the
Oh
track.
wow.
Yeah, feels like chloroform.
Yeah, yeah. Do
Yeah,
you know sort of like I remember sort of like posting about it because what is it about chloroform that I think Paul Simpson and Ian Brody use chloroform in their
yeah.
song.
Well, it's a powerful image,
Yeah,
isn't it? But
yeah.
but yeah, if you listen to that song now that you know that little backstory, you'll probably you'll be able to notice maybe it's a bit of a different drummer.
It's a different drummer, so like
Yeah, I'm a bit more full of beans, I think, than Steve. So, yeah. But
well,
Steve's a great
Mark.
drummer too. You know, I'm not to say that I'm as great as Steve or anything.
Yeah. Well, Mark Serrano obviously remembers LSD because
Oh
he just
yeah,
put
yeah.
LSD
Mark would
in
know
everything.
that I play drums on that record.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we go back to like the Brian Jonestown Massacre, because I read your
I do play drums on some Brian Jonestown stuff. We did a single version of what was it? If Love Is the Drug, I Want to OD. There's a version of that I'm playing drums on, and there's also a B-side we did that I'm playing some drums on. I'm trying to remember what that's called. Lions Ride Free. That's what it's called. It has a real I Am the
right.
Walrus vibe. So yeah,
Okay.
there is the odd bit with BJM that I'm actually behind the kit. It's true.
Yeah.
But I have to
Well,
kind of remember this stuff.
you have to remember as well, like these things, because
It's
I
all just an
understand.
organic process doing things with people. You know, you just go from one thing to another, and you play a bit of drums, you play a bit of guitar, you play a bit of bass, whatever. You know, it's
Yeah,
all just,
yeah,
but it's all just making music. You know, and that's at the end of the day, that's what matters is you're getting things done. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. That's true. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
as you know, I'm really new to the Brian Jonestown Massacre music, and I looked it up on Wikipedia, and you're one of the founding members
Mm,
of Brian Jonestown Massacre, and you're the original drummer. But what I'm going to ask you is, I hope you don't mind me asking you this, because
what's that?
when I posted about the Brian Jonestown Massacre, people sort of like said you've got to watch the documentary called The
All right.
Game,
Sure. Well,
and
that's like, oh, you
I
like the
did.
beat? You just heard the Beatles. Oh, you got to see Magical Mystery Tour, or oh, you got
Yeah.
to see Let It Be. It's like it's not really going to give you the full picture, and in fact, it might even kind of give you a bit of the wrong picture. It
Well,
might make you come to a conclusion that you might not come to if you hadn't have seen the film, because you kind of need to come to you need the story. You need your own imagination to tell you the story just by through hearing the actual music, the actual work.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but
No,
that's
but
just my opinion, right? So
what I'm gonna ask you is,
mm,
being the original founder and the original, one of the founding members and the original drummer of Brian Jonestown Massacre,
yeah.
how come you're not in the film?
Oh, because I was already out of the band by then. Because I left the band, you see. I left the band in '93 for a little while. Or actually, I left the band. What am I saying? I left the band for 10 years. But, and that's just a case of, these are still young, formative years. I was, at this time in life, I was 20, turning 21. And I'd already been in the band for about 3 years. And, so things happen fast at that age. And when they're not happening fast enough, sometimes you just need to move on and do something else. And, I still had a lot of good years ahead of me, and I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to kind of have my options open in life in a general sense. I wanted a sense of freedom. that being in the
Yeah.
band didn't really give me any more after that amount of time at that point in life. So I moved on from it. And, it was up and down. We remained friends. We were very close. We were in close quarters for a long time. So, 10 years later, it was pretty natural. It felt pretty natural to find myself in that situation again,
Yeah. Yeah. But
and
not even.
that's now 20 years ago. So I've now been back twice as long as I was away. But in
Oh,
that time, I left in 93, and they began making that film in 94, you see. So the band had already had a whole history come and gone before that film even began.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it's a bit, yeah, it's a bit strange that leaving you out of the film,
No,
was
it
all.
wasn't like that. I left myself out of the band before anyone even knew that film was going to happen. You see, so that's how that went down. And they finished making it right before I came back. So the way I see it, I dodged a bullet and I missed out. Yeah, I'm perfectly happy with those results. So
Yeah. Well, I actually went to see you live in Leeds
yeah.
first
Oh
before
yeah,
I
yeah,
watched the film, and
yeah.
I think it's a good thing that I did because I mean I don't know, I just sort of like thought he Anton is a bit scary, isn't he?
Well, he's a bit of a moody guy at times, like the rest of us. Maybe sometimes a bit more extreme than others. But yeah, but it's like anything. We're always scared of the unknown, right? So I mean, if you knew him, you wouldn't think of him that way at all. Even if he was having a bad day, you would be like, okay, well, he's having a bad day, but you wouldn't be afraid of him because you'd know him. You see, so it's really just down to that,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
you know, and who you know, what you know, and what you don't know
What you
about
don't.
someone or something or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mark said that you've done well for yourself, minus the whole dig era. So,
There you go. So
yeah,
yeah,
there you go. Yes.
yeah.
Well,
I'm not playing music to be a movie star. You know what I mean? If I wanted to be a movie star, I would have just went straight for something like that. But it's
yeah.
music. I always say, well, I'd rather be in the Residence than the Monkees.
Oh,
There you go.
okay. Yeah. Now, you mentioned Bayou. Is that how you pronounce it? Bayou or
By who? By who?
Bayou? Um, how did that come about?
Well, it came about because I was involved with a lot of bands in China, as well as their label putting their records out. And so I was spending a lot of time there, and I was producing bands there and touring with them around China, around the world, really. We were going everywhere. So one thing led to another, and it came to pass that after producing some of these artists, they wanted to have an actual collaborative project together. So that's what we did. We created a band, and
Yeah.
it came together quite naturally, very organically. And next thing we knew, we had offers for gigs and a record deal in China, and just went for it. And we had a great time. And we actually had plans to continue on, but then COVID got in the way. So yeah. But some of those guys play in a band called Bird Striking, who are quite a busy band in China, very popular. And I've produced their last album. They're making a new album. And so they've continued on with their careers doing stuff anyways, as have I. And we'll pick up again when the time's right. I'll find myself, back in China as soon as I get the opportunity.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
can I just ask you, when was the last time that you actually played drums? Or maybe in a gig or doing a show playing drums?
I
Or...
was playing some drums for Mercury Rev at Soundcheck about a year ago. Other than that, I can't remember, to be honest. Let's see, a drum kit, drums. Let me think about this. I mean, but the way my life is, I could have made a whole record with someone and I forgot all about it. I have to remember.
Oh.
I have to. So I don't know the last time I've actually had to play some drums properly. It's been a while, but I'm open to suggestion if anyone wants me to play some drums for them or whatever. If I've got the time and it's within the realm of possibility, I'm open to it if it's the right thing. Yeah.
Well, apart from because the Brian Jonestown Massacre, you're doing a lot of gigs at the moment, like all over the world, not just in America or in Europe.
Yeah, we were in South America recently. We're back in Europe now. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're also in the current lineup of the Wild Swans.
Yes.
and I believe there is a new album that's going to be coming out as well.
Well, it still remains incomplete, but the vast majority of it is done in terms of the music itself. We just need to get the time and the stars aligned for us to get into a studio with Paul and
Yeah,
knock out the vocals, but you know,
yeah.
it's easier said than done, for a number of
Well,
reasons. It really has to be the right time,
yeah,
just
yeah.
and there's many abstract things that dictate that so it's
Because this is an exciting lineup because you've got Edgar Jones as well, haven't you?
yeah, well,
And
we've made an exciting record, but that's the thing, is it's so good that it's always going to be the right time. Whenever it
yeah,
comes out will be the right time for it to come out. So there's no pressure. So in terms of that, there's no pressure around it, and we're not really. I mean, it's
when it's time to release it, it's time to release it. It's just,
that's right.
I'm sure the fans will sort of like wait. They're willing to wait
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. There's lots of other things happening. He's a busy guy, and
Yeah, yes,
and
yes.
as
Especially this
as is
year.
everyone who he's involved
Yeah,
with in that
yeah,
project. But he's got a lot of other things going on. He's writing a book and all these things. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I believe you were with him when they went to Manila,
Oh yeah.
the Wild
Well,
Swans in Manila.
yeah, the Wild Swans. Yes, he's since gone back on his own
Yeah,
at
but
least once. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. What was that like?
Oh gosh, that was great. That was fantastic. I mean, everyone we met was lovely, and gosh, Jesse, the promoter, is a fabulous, wonderful, big-hearted guy. He's really
Yeah,
enthusiastic about music. He has a wonderful knowledge and passion. Um, so it was a real joy to be there and do that for him, and have him make it so lovely for us. And we want to do it again. Again when the time is right. Yeah, it should happen.
what's your most
Um,
memorable moment in when you were in Manila?
oh, I don't know if I can discuss that in public.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. I had a lot of fun with Mike Mooney. I'll put it that way.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah. Um,
I think I remember there
otherwise,
was one time you went to a noontime show, and someone saw like a girl asked Paul Simpson to like sign a T-shirt or something like that she was wearing. I don't know, but or no, it was her belly. I think that that
yeah, there
Paul
was all
Simpson.
sorts of stuff like that going on.
Yeah,
But we were also taken to a gentleman's club where there was a karaoke show, and all these really beautiful girls. They were like something out of a dream. They were like each one like a exotic princess came out, and they were all in a row dancing, and they all sang karaoke the Wild Swans to us. It was mind blowing. We were all looking at each other like, "Can you believe this?" Like, we were in shock. We didn't know how to react. It was like, whoa. It was like, just soak this up, because this will likely never ever happen again for the rest of your life.
well, hopefully when Paul Simpson goes back to Manila, hopefully he'll have you and the others as well. So like,
There's talk about it, but again, the stars have to align at the
yeah,
right time.
that's true. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
another band that I wanted to ask you about is the one that I saw in March, in Glasgow, Scorpio Leisure or
Oh,
Leisure.
Scorpio Leisure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, how did that come about, and how come you become a member of that band?
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
it's a small world, People know people. They take you. A friend can take you to another friend's studio where he's making a record with somebody else in his studio, whatever, and you hanging out and you're talking, and next thing you know, they're handing you a guitar, and then the next thing you know, it's someone who you have all their records by, and you didn't even realize it until after you're already in amongst it all. And that was sort of the case here, because I wasn't aware that who I was sitting there talking to the whole time was Rusty from the Fire Engines and Win.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I got all his records at home, and it's next, and by the end of the night, I'm playing on 3 songs in his new record, kind of thing. And then,
yeah.
When can you come back? I can come back next week. So I come back and do it again, and the next thing you know, you've come back and you've come back again and again and again and again. And you've made,
Yeah.
an album's worth of material. And then there's a show and then there's another show. And, things just fall into place, and
Yeah,
that's
but
very
you
much.
are a full-time member though. You're not just sort of like a guest performer in
I
Scorpulation.
don't know that there's any decision made around that. I'm not around all the time. And they've
Oh,
played
okay,
they've
yeah.
they've they've played some gigs without me, which I encourage them to do. There's no reason to not gig just because I'm not around. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm quite happy to play, but I'm quite happy for them to keep it going because it was already going before I was in the mix, anyways. And the most important thing is we're making these great recordings. Yeah. So the story will be long.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I really
whether
enjoyed I really enjoyed that gig. It's a bit
yeah.
it's really unusual. And
Mhm.
someone actually mentioned or sort of like compared it to the Cramps.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I can see that. Like a techno cramps or
Yeah.
an electronic
Electronic sort of like
cramps. Yeah, I like that it has this kind of seedy back alley kind of quality, but it's got this kind of slick electronic quality, but it's kind of fucked up and gnarly at the same time. And then it's got these weird sleazy guitars and riffs, and yeah, it's a cool combination of stuff. It's got a lot of character, and it's irresistible. It has these irresistible qualities. It's like, ooh, I shouldn't like that, but I really like
I
that.
know.
It's that kind of thing. That's what appeals to me about it.
It's
It's
very
edgy and it's challenging in this really kind of charming way.
yeah, but it's very different from Chris Thompson's The Bathers.
Well, yeah, and that I like doing that kind of thing too. You see, so
Yeah, yeah.
and there you go. There you have it. You see, I'm a pretty multifaceted guy with a lot of different musical interests. I like acoustic music. I like playing with
Yeah.
singer-songwriters. I like doing weird experimental music. I like doing electronic music. I like doing jangly pop, big loud rock, whatever. As long as it's good, that's the thing.
It's true,
That's
yeah.
that's the bottom line. It's just quality. The style and quality are two different things, right? You can have all sorts of style, but just make the worst quality music, right? Despite the haircut or the boots or whatever. I mean, you know.
Well,
So
Chris
yeah,
Quinn, who's the drummer of the Orchids, he's
yeah.
actually like said, "Can you teach how to, like because you look so cool when you're on stage and even off stage."
Well,
So like
shucks.
no, that he used effortlessly cool. So,
When I'm on stage, I tend to have my eyes shut, and it's so I can just kind of forget all about where I'm at and just do what I got to do, and
yeah,
that works out best for everyone, I think. So there you go. I think that's how I do it. It equates to, wow, how does he do it? But that's how I do it. I'm just trying to forget I'm even there, man. I'm trying to transcend this whole check me out factor and just be a part of the whole, connect with everyone on some other level with it. Like if we all close
yeah,
our eyes together, then we're all one and we're all just in this thing. And it's not really about who's playing it or who's just sitting there appreciating it. We're all experiencing it together. And that's, I guess, the point.
yeah. That's right. Well.
Yeah.
You're also you're an amazing guitar player.
Oh, well, shucks. Thanks.
Really, no, really.
It's amazing that people think I'm an amazing guitar player to me. So there you go. You know, but I think
But
that's part of it too. I think that's part of why that's a takeaway for people. It's because that's how that's being achieved as well, is because I'm just kind of not making it about me, so much. I'm making it about us
well,
as one beyond it all.
yeah, yeah,
And I think
and
that
also
amazes people. And I guess that's an amazing thing in its own way, whatever.
yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I mean, no, I mean, surely you know that people also like really admire you as some amazing musician, and people wanting to sort of like collaborate or have you in their band and things like that. But I just find it really, I don't know, it's because you're so real and you love all these bands, and you're a big fan. You're a big fan of Paul Simpson.
Yeah,
Which
well, that's how it all
I
started.
can,
That's how any of this started. Was being a big fan of music and being that passionate and that interested and that sort
yeah,
of, I guess, motivated, but also having some sense of vision, I guess, of seeing how things can be created or achieved or accomplished, by working together with people, cooperating, putting events together or whatever, building a culture around things, getting people excited, creating interest around something.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah. And I think
yeah.
that's, and I think to do that, you have to be real. You can't be deluded. You can't be,
Because
living
I
in la
heard
la
you.
land. You have to be dealing with reality.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I heard you talking to the Orchids like yesterday, and I was all like thinking, God, that sounds just like me because I'm a big fan of the Orchids as well. And the way you talk to them,
Yeah. Well,
almost.
yeah, because I mean, in my mind, they're the sort of legendary, cool bands, that you'd never even think in a million years you'd be standing there having a chat with one of them, or a couple of them, or all of them, or what. It's just like, oh wow, you guys are
Yeah,
from some other dimension, but here we are at a gig.
yeah, yeah. And
So
also,
yeah.
I've got to say that what I mean, the music that you post on your social media and everything, it's because I find that a lot of the musicians they're into sort of like obscure kind of music, and but you're also post like mainstream. When I found out that you're a big fan of like the blow, well, I'd say it's blow mainstream, like the blow monkeys, and you don't mind posting selfies with them as well. So you that's so like people can actually relate to you, even though,
Yeah, well, because I'm a fan of music, I never stopped being a fan,
yeah.
and I
So
and I think there's some value in that. I think that's something a lot of people missed the point on. And I think that's also why a lot of people do ask me to do things, is because I've retained an enthusiasm, through all the pitfalls that most people end up becoming quite jaded or cynical through, or
yeah,
just give up or whatever, you know.
yeah.
I
Because
guess.
sometimes you talk to musician and then you tell them someone and they've not heard of it, even though so like you'd think they would
Oh
have
well,
heard
there's a
of
lot
it.
of things I haven't heard of.
But there
Like
was
like I'm sure the
I think
entire
that's
top
you.
40 I've never heard of it, any of it. And I probably never will.
Well, you are a big fan of Mickhead as well, aren't you?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, well, that's Liverpool. That's my time in Liverpool and playing with Paul in the Wild Swans. That was a real education in that whole
Yeah,
musical occurrence there through the late '70s and the '80s and '90s. Yeah, I don't know that I would have found that music, without that. So,
all right. Well,
mm.
I hope that you go and see them in
I hope I get a chance.
Edinburgh, Summer Hall.
I always seem to just miss it. Are they playing Summer Hall?
Yeah, Summer Hall in August. So I hope
Is
you'll
that
be there.
right?
Yeah, because
Oh,
I know someone
that's
who's going
right.
to be.
That's right. I did see that ad. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do want
yeah.
to try and make that actually. Yeah.
Because I do know that Tom Powell, the bass player, is going to be so happy if you're there because he's a big fan of the Brian
Oh,
Jonestown
right. Yeah,
stuff.
I'm sure I've seen some photos of those guys with one of them wearing a BJM shirt.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
Tom
that's kind of
Powell, so like the
yeah.
bass player. So,
Right on. Right
um,
on.
yeah,
Well, if I don't
hopefully,
make it, tell them I said hi.
hopefully you'll be there because it's in
Yeah.
Edinburgh, anyways, and you do like going there sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I
So
might be in Edinburgh anyways at that time, so it may fall in the greater flow of what's happening anyways,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
how I like things to go anyways. So yeah.
Well, you have collaborated with so many, in not just collaborate, but you also played live gigs with so many musicians and so many bands.
It's
Is
hard to
there?
remember them all.
Have you got one sort of like band or musician in mind that you really want to sort of like play with or collaborate with?
No, because it doesn't work that way. It's everything I've ever done has come up totally organically. It's not anyone sort of pitting anything, into place to force it into action. So, I just want to see what happens in general, and be open to whatever happens, because I'm happy to play with anyone who I really feel a reaction, a chemical response with. You know, they don't have to be someone whose records I buy necessarily, but that's always a treat too. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just got to see what happens.
Oh, well, I want to say hello to Hazel Morrison.
Oh yeah,
She
hello Hazel.
said, "Love Ricky." So
Yeah,
Hazel's amazing. Oh my God,
yeah,
she
Hazel is amazing. I love Hazel too. Hazel, I love you.
Me too. I love you, Hazel.
Mm.
But I missed her because I think she left early last night. But
The
anyway,
train. A bunch of people
yeah,
had to leave because of the train. That's how it is in this country. You know, I always forget too. And I was like, oh yes,
yeah,
of course,
yeah.
yeah. Because there was a few people I was looking for to say goodnight to, like Mark Tranmer and a few others. So
Oh yeah, of course,
they all
Mark.
had
Yeah,
the same reason why. You know.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, not you. You're not just a musician, but you're also a producer as well, and you've got your own record label because you're the one
Oh
who
no.
produced this, right?
Oh yeah, that's not my label though. That's
Oh,
a
it's
great
not your
label,
label,
but it's not my label. It's Hozak.
but
That's a
you're the producer
well,
of
I
this.
put that
Oh,
together. That's my uncle's record. So I got the tapes baked and remastered and found a appropriate label to release it. Yeah.
okay, but you
And it
haven't
went
got your
well.
own record label.
No, I used to have a distribution company that only did indie labels from China. But
Oh, I
that
see.
came to a close because the main label I worked with got bought out by the biggest label in China, Taihe Records. And so when that happened, there was, you know, they absorbed that label's interests and decided they were no longer wanting to pursue a market in the Western world, that they were happy to keep their focus in Asia and China specifically. So that was the end of a need for the service I was providing to them. And that was my niche, was I only did Chinese indie labels to the
Oh, I
Western world, to
see.
America, Europe, Australia, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
But that
But
was going from like 2013 to 2019. So did that for 6 years,
yeah, yeah.
and it was
And are
good.
you still producing other people's music or?
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still producing artists. Yeah, I've been producing a band called The Pleasure Routine from San Francisco, and
Right.
I feel like there's something else I just can't remember. But yeah, I mean, I'm just working on various projects. I'm working with Scorpio Leisure. I'm working with some mates of mine in Australia that I've done some work with before,
Yeah.
producing whatnot. And yeah, there's a few things in the pipeline. Project with Glenn Benny from the Underground Lovers in
Oh,
Melbourne.
yeah.
Yeah. So
You are very busy. I mean, I could tell from your social media posts. And so, which country or what city would you sort of like consider as your home? Because I know that you've got a son in Australia,
there you
right?
go. So that's where he's at, Perth. That's home.
But your mom is in California, or
She's in Sacramento, Northern California.
Sacramento? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so you're sort of like going from that place and
Mm, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. And I remember you posting the photograph of your son playing the guitar as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, have, have, have you ever sort of like taught him how to play drums?
No, I'm not. I can't teach him anything, and it's not because he's a bad student. It's because he's just not interested in learning anything from dear old dad. And I think that's a really natural thing for kids. They're like the parents are the last one. You know, if you want your kid to learn something, you got to find the really good teacher to teach them. You know, because they're just like, well, I don't want to do what you do. You're my dad. You know, so he actually does play guitar, but it's got very little to do with me. He was taking lessons from Richard Lane from the Stems, and then he became a classical guitarist, and that got him into his school that he now goes to. So he's a classically trained guitarist for 4 years now, and he's top of his class, and he's showing no signs of slowing down. So he's a properly trained musician. So much so that I don't even want to play a guitar around him because this is nothing I can teach him at all. It's just going to reveal all of my limitations. But he understands that I've got my own thing with it, you know, and I don't. I mean, I can play guitar like a guitar, sure, but in my mind, when I'm playing guitar, I'm just utilizing a tone source. If you follow me, you know, it's electric instrument, you know, and you're using effects and you're using noise and you're using echoes and reverbs and filters, wah-wah, whatever. So it's at that point, you're just creating sound, you're creating tones. And so that's how I like to approach it and how I like to think of it. Not try to be, you know, just like a guitar player, but you know, that's good too. But it's good to remember how to play the guitar as well. So that's why I like to go around playing with different bands, because it reminds me, oh yeah, you got to play guitar, and that's just how you do
it. Do you like last night when you were playing with the Bathers?
Yeah,
because you only saw like it wasn't that long ago when you sort of like landed in Edinburgh for your practice or something like that.
Yeah.
But have you already sort of like practiced yourself on your own doing all this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any chance I get, yeah. I will sit. I mean, even if I don't have the guitar in my hands, I'll listen to the music, and I will visualize in my mind's eye the fretboard, my hands, the whole thing. Yeah. And in my mind, I am rehearsing. As long as there's nothing to break my concentration. So I'm really I have no problem just soaking up the material and absorbing the set, and really because you can never be too prepared, and especially in a case like with the Bathers, because we have very little time to rehearse together, you know. So and even
I thought you were only going to do like 1 or 2 songs, but you were actually sort of like a part of the band.
I did most of the show, didn't I? Yeah. So yeah, which I'm really glad and grateful I was able to do as much as I did. Anyhow, but it wasn't much different with the Wild Swans, you know. In our rehearsal experience, very few hours spent total as in the history of me playing with Paul in that band. So, you know, before I turned up to Liverpool to rehearse, I had already been playing for 8 hours a day in my bedroom every day for 2 weeks, bringing home the ashes from start to finish, along to the record. Over and 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 over again until I couldn't stand it anymore. And then I'd do the same thing with Space Flower. And then I'd do the same thing with Cold as Winter. And then I'd do the same thing with the early material. And then I'd start over again. And I would just do that for, you know, 10 days until it's time to get on the plane and go do it with the band. And then whatever song they throw at me, I'm ready to go. I have a plan of action. I know, you know, you got to be prepared. So, and, you know, I did that with Triffids when I played with them. I did that with Kilby when I played with him. You know, you got to do that. That's how you do it, man. You got to be prepared.
I get fascinated with so
prepared that you know what the other people should be doing too, and then sometimes you can tell them. You know, so
because what the last song that you did with Cowboy Mouth and the others. Now, Graham Skinner said that there was no practice, or
I've never played that song in my life until I got up there and did it last night. He just told me what the chords were, and I said, "Yeah, okay." You know, but you just have to trust in the process, trust in your abilities, trust in your memory. Because I know the song, I've heard it a million times. I've just never actually played it before. So all I have to do is think of how that song goes, and it just makes sense. Once I know what key it's in, well, of course it's down a step. Of course it's down another step. Of course it's down a half step from there. It just becomes logic. It's like crystal clear in your memory. So you just rely on what you already know. You know, so that's a lesson in not second guessing what you already know and just trusting.
I just find that really fascinating, because it's like being guest performers and you've not practiced. But then when you're actually on stage, and it was just really brilliant, especially that last bit when you seem to be sort of like going on and on about, so, you know, just playing. And
it was kind of getting better and better, wasn't it?
I could see sort of like Graham Skinner. It's like they're not stopping. It was all like just.
Well, that was why, because it showed no signs of getting any worse. So why, you know, let's just wait for the cane to come out and yank us off, right?
Oh, I'm going. Oh, I have to say that Hazel missed that one because she's, like she said,
Yeah,
dance.
the
Like,
train
yeah,
wrecks everybody's
yeah,
good time in this country, man.
yeah. I
Anyway,
have to actually, I lost track of time yesterday, but then I realized there's actually a very last bus back to my friend Vivian's
whoa,
house.
you're
So,
really picking up a Manchester accent. Whoa.
oh,
I
am
just
I?
picked up on it. Wow, you
Oh,
really are. You've been living in Manchester, haven't you? Wow. Neat.
no, but I've been here quite a long time, anyways.
How's
But
the king be?
um, pardon?
How's the king be?
Kim is really good. I mean, it's a shame that I was in Glasgow that time when you came
No,
to
it wasn't. It was great you were in Glasgow for you.
I could have had sort of like a photograph with you outside the King Beauty, so like records with the sign
I'm
and
sure that will
everything.
come up probably on
The next
September
time,
2nd.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, because Psych Fest, I know that I
Yeah.
think Jenny and Trevor are gonna be there as well because they
Okay.
have seen you. They have seen the Brian Jonestown Massacre.
You know who's playing that? Who you have to see is a band called Say She from America. They got 3 girl singers. It's like a R&B thing, but it's like kind of dreamy dream pop R&B. It's really good. I've been
Oh,
buying up there all
really?
the singles. I love them. Say She, Say She, Say
Say
She.
she.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
playing that. They're playing that festival with us. So I'm excited.
Another.
I'm excited to
Yeah.
play it now because I know they're playing.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I know another band that's also playing is Deja Vega. I don't know if you've heard of them,
Don't know
but
them. I've seen
Deja
the name, but I
Vega,
don't know them.
amazing. Yeah, they're really good as well. So that will be. Is that your next? Oh no, it's not. That's not until
No, the
September.
next
You've
gigs.
got.
We got the next gig for Brian Jonestown is on June
Is it South America?
10th. June 10th in Moss, Norway. We're playing a
Oh, wow.
festival with a bunch of great bands. We're playing with the Lilies, Neil Halstead from Slowdive, Faust, Todd Turget, Bertrand
Faust.
Bergerac, Lee Ronaldo. A bunch of great people are playing. Yeah, so
Wow.
that's on June 10th, and then we're playing again June 30th. June 30th, we're playing with Primal Scream in Reading, and then we're playing July 8th. It's in Six Fours, France, at south of France festival. Then we're playing some dates in Italy right after that
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Something, yeah, in
So how
July.
long are you? How long are you staying in Glasgow? Oh, you are in Glasgow, right?
I'm not in Glasgow. I'm outside of Edinburgh in a
Oh,
place
I
called.
said okay.
I'm
Yeah.
in I'm in 3 Mile Town, which is
Oh, okay.
just outside of Linlithgow, in
Yeah.
West
How long are you?
Lothian, Scotland. Huh?
How long are you staying there for?
Well, I'm going to Munich in a couple
Oh,
days
wow.
for a week, and then I'm coming back here for a couple days, and I'm going to Oslo to have that gig, and then I'm coming back here for like a couple weeks, and then we go back to England and play that gig with Primal Scream, and then I'm going to go to Germany and rehearse with the band, go play the gig in France and 3 gigs in Italy, hang out in Germany for a bit, maybe go back to California for a week or two. I haven't worked that out yet, and if not, I'll come back to Scotland, and then we're going to do this gig in Finland at the beginning of
Yeah.
August, and then we're going to do a gig in Portugal in the middle of August, and then a gig in France a couple of days after that, and then we got the thing in Manchester that I'll see you
Yeah.
at September, and then I go back to Scotland for a week, and then back to California, and then we do a US tour. Crazy.
Oh,
The fun never stops.
When do you sleep?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. I'm going back to bed as soon as I get off the phone with you.
But you're not going to be there for the Bluebells on Sunday, are you?
I think I'll
You're
be
playing.
gone. I'll be
Oh, you'll be
gone for
gone
that.
then.
Yeah, I would have been, but I've got to go to get my
Yeah.
guitar and
Oh,
stuff.
it's a
Yeah, I got
shame.
things to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
But I saw
ask-
Bobby at the gig last night. It was good to see him.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah. It was great. It's a good crowd.
And like you said, I mean, I missed Paul Simpson, but you said that he was there.
He was there. Paul was there. Bobby was there. Mungo from Scorpio Leisure was
Mungo,
there.
I saw
Yeah.
Mungo, so like
It was
talking
good.
to
Yeah.
you.
Mark Tranmer. Oh, you came with Mark. You know that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And the
Yeah, Mark.
Orchids. Yeah. So
And the
yeah.
Orchids. So,
Yeah. It's a good crowd, man.
No.
Really
Because
good
you were
crowd.
there.
You were there.
That's why. Because you were there.
What?
That's why all these like musicians wanted to like see you play.
Oh, that's really sweet. That's a nice thing to say. I appreciate
no,
that.
no, it's all like,
Well,
no, I
because
think
they all know that I'm their fan, So
yeah,
then it's just mutual appreciation club, and that's which is great because whether we're firemen or plumbers, we're musicians. We're like tradesmen. We're all just kind of on the same page. It's like you've done your battle in the war, so it's like we can identify
yeah,
with each other in ways other people can't identify with us, or we can't identify with them. So we have an understanding. You're made of the same stuff. It's
yeah. Because
yeah.
I remember when you went to the Orchids Ganac gig at the Grand
Yeah,
Canyon,
boy, that was great.
and Chris Quinn, because Chris is also very similar to you. He is also a bit of a fanboy himself, which is that's why I really like him. I love
Yeah,
Chris because
yeah,
he's
I was
like
picking up
that,
on
you
that, which is
know?
great. I love that about him too. Yeah, I like that. I think it's a good quality in a musician. It's
Yeah. And
important.
when he saw you that evening, it was like, oh, that's Ricky Maymi from the Brian Jonestown
Wow, see,
Massacre.
that blows me away to hear that. It really does. Yeah,
But
I wouldn't have expected that at all.
oh, no, yeah, it's after 8, but I've got all these drumming questions that I've got to ask because this
Uh,
is after drummer.
okay, sure.
So,
Go on then.
as a drummer, do you twirl when you play the drums?
Do I?
Do do you twirl with the
Oh
drumstick?
God, no, 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 no. I'm not a flashy drummer. I'm not a flashy drummer.
No,
No,
but you know.
none of that Tommy Lee stuff going on. I assure you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I've got to sort of like see you someday, sort of like playing the drums because that would be really,
There's
really
probably
cool.
some YouTube stuff out there somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I know that you haven't really played the drums recently, not a lot, but have you ever had any sort of like accidents or like a disaster when you were either when you were playing or like falling over or something like that?
Actually, yeah, I did. Funnily enough, I have got a fingernail on my index finger on my right hand that grows in sort of two halves because I banged it on a broken cymbal one time and ripped it right open. And
Oh,
it was so horrible. I was in a rehearsal space and playing this nasty drum kit with this ripped up cymbal, and I was, again playing with my eyes closed as I tend to do, and the music was building and building and building and building, and I'm not watching anything, and I go for the crash, and then next thing I know, gee, that hurt, and
oh
I
God.
look down and there's this, it looks like a crime scene. There's blood everywhere, and
Oh no.
yeah, I had to go to the doctor and the whole thing. So yeah, and now yeah, so and my fingers never been the same ever since. Mutant finger
And so is that
drumming mishap. Yeah.
oh right.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't stop you so like it didn't so like make you think I'm not gonna play drums anymore.
No, it made me think I'm not going to play drums with nasty, beat up, ripped up, broken cymbals anymore. And if I do, I'm going to keep my eyes open.
Well, Hazel said, "Ouch."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
She would
that
know that how
sounds
much that would hurt. I'm sure. Yeah. She can
yeah.
imagine it. Yeah.
What about drumming heroes? Do you have
Drum-
any sort of like drumming
Too
heroes?
many, man. Hazel, for a start. She's drumming
Yeah.
hero.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
She's off the top of my head. Gosh, but I mean, there's all the usuals. Jakey Liebezeit from Cannes. He's
Oh,
sort of
right, okay.
he's the
Yeah.
master. I mean, yeah, you know. Um, gosh, Yukihiro Takahashi is pretty fantastic, and of course Prairie Prince. From
Yeah.
the Tubes, and he played drums on Skylarking by XTC, and
Oh, right.
he's
Yeah.
he's a fantastic drummer. You know,
What about
you know who I
guitar?
really love actually is John
Oh, sorry.
Bonham,
Yeah. Go.
and it's funny because I hate Led Zeppelin, but I love John Bonham, and
Jump. Yeah.
I love Jimmy Page, and I love John Paul Jones. I'm not so keen on Robert Plant, and therein lies the problem. And it's not like I hate him or anything. It's just he's their weakest link. But gosh, each of those players on their own are just incredible and fantastic. It's so inspirational.
Oh.
Yeah.
So guitar heroes.
guitar here. Oh, gee, Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson from Bebop Deluxe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, him. And then of course Mick Ronson, Bill Spooner from the Tubes. Um, who else? Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Jem
Wow.
Kelly from the Wild Swans.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. That's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, yeah,
Marty
yeah,
Wilson Piper from the Church. Mike Mooney from so many things. Ian McCulloch's solo band, the Wild Swans, and Julian Cope, and yeah, those are kind of my main go-tos. I
yeah.
think Tom
You're
Verlaine,
also like,
Tom Verlaine, Tom Verlaine, Tom Verlaine.
yeah, you're very much like a Filipino new waver, I would
I
say.
know,
Is
isn't it
that
amazing?
right?
No, more all you Filipino new wavers are so much like me, man. What's going on there? I'm trying to work this out, you know.
And you mentioned so like Marty Wilson Piper. I forgot to ask. You also released an album with Steve Kilbey, right?
Yeah, in fact, I have. Stephen and I made a great record called David Neal, The Wilderness Years. And it's out there. You can hear it online. You can download it. The vinyl
Yeah,
goes for a lot these days, but I think it's going to get reissued eventually here. Anyways, yeah. And we also did some other work with Glenn Benny from the Underground Lovers. Stephen and I have done a lot of different things together, also in performance with the Triffids and doing his solo stuff, and doing our David Neal tour, and yeah,
yeah,
also performing with Glenn Benny. So we've done a lot of work together in
yeah.
various
Because we spent a lot of
forms.
time in Australia as well. That's
Yeah, but
why.
he and I
Yeah,
also, did stuff with the Church on stage in America, and Stephen and I went to New Zealand and did a tour. That was pretty wild.
yeah,
Yeah, we have an extensive enough history there, I'd say. Yeah,
yeah. And I've got to
sure.
say that your record collection is very much similar to a lot of Filipino record collectors as well. I
Yeah,
can't believe you posted Shauna dancing
yeah.
more.
Well, I'm just a sucker for new wave, man. I'm a real new waver at heart. I was voted most new wave in my junior high school in Half Moon Bay. Um,
Oh
I
wow.
really in the yearbook. Yeah, I haven't got one, but anyhow, yeah. So I just love that stuff. I love the whole
So like the
aesthetic,
80s, yeah, the 80s
but
new
also
wave.
not just the aesthetic, but the craftsmanship, the way they made those records. There's a real artistry there that's a dead art. It's gone. No, people don't make records that way anymore, and I think there's something to be learned from that music, and I think people know that. I think there's a lot of people that are picking up on that now. That's why things like OMD are so popular again. Because
Yeah, yeah,
I think people have worked it out that those guys were really onto something. That whole electronic pop movement in the early 80s into the mid 80s was really
yeah.
great,
Well,
really
Aiden,
imaginative stuff.
yeah. Well, Aiden just said that he was talking about Bill Nelson the other day, and Phil Manzanera loved
Yeah.
"Mummy Was an Asteroid." I've not heard of that one. "Mummy Was an Asteroid" is that the track or something? But anyways, yeah. And Mick Ronson's "Slaughter" album, all great. So
Mm.
that's from Aiden. Yeah. Um. Also, I wanted to ask you: have you tried singing?
Well, yeah. It happens. It's never really been. I mean, I'm a guy with high standards. I barely meet my own standards as a musician. So, as a singer, um, you gotta really deliver, man. That's why I love Graham Skinner so much, because he's just. I mean, there was some real David Bowie moments there last night. I mean, he really delivers. And if
Yeah,
I
yeah,
if I was going to step up like that, it would have to be damn good. So I like to stick to what I'm comfortable with, having some authoritative approach. And
yeah.
on the mic, I'm just not. I'm not sold. I'm not sold that I can sell myself to me
Can you
on
not
that.
just not like close your eyes and sing
Well,
and do
having
it?
said all that, it's not that I haven't done it. There's the odd bit of backing vocals on the Wild Swans or Imaginary Friends or whatever, just out of
Yeah,
necessity. Not like I'm waiting for my big moment to get on the mic or anything. But but I don't rule it out either. I just have to, the spirit hasn't moved me as such. So, but I do have a hankering for creating some music on my own. So we'll see where that leads. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I wouldn't put any pressure around songs per se, because I'm someone who's quite comfortable making quite atmospheric, long, sprawling pieces of music that just kind of go on and on and on. Automatic music, I can make guitars play themselves and create loops and do all this stuff. So, I'd probably start that way and then see what ideas came out of that. Maybe some songs might be written out of that, or maybe it might just be left the way it is. Maybe
Yeah.
I might start to really get something out of it that requires writing words down and saying them into a microphone in some manner, delivering them in some manner which might be identified as singing, or I don't know. We just have to
Yeah.
see. I'm
Well,
open. I'm a pretty open guy,
yeah.
but I have pretty high standards too. So there you go. That's the.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned David Bowie because I think I saw what Chris Thompson. I can't remember which song it was now, but he was doing a bit of sort of like a David Bowie moves last night as well. And I was like, oh my god, that's very similar to sort of like David Bowie doing. I
Well,
think.
he's very influenced by him.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's yeah.
yeah,
It's hard to get away from those kind of influences. Whether Bob Dylan or David Bowie, they're so they define pop in so many ways.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The last question I want to ask is, what will your advice be to aspiring musicians or aspiring drummers or yeah, or yeah, musicians, aspiring musicians? What will be your advice?
Aspiring musicians,
Yeah.
get a job as an accountant. Learn how to build computers. Learn how to write code. Learn how to operate IT security systems and Bitcoin. That's my advice to aspiring musicians. Because you got to really have a reason. And unless I know you got a real good reason why you're doing it, I'm not going to give the kind of advice you think I should give. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't recommend it to anyone unless I really knew who I was recommending it to and why. You know what I mean? Because it's a life. It's not for everyone, man. No matter how skilled you are as a player or how
Yeah.
much you love music, a life of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of compromise and a lot of sacrifice required of someone to pursue the life. So it depends on what you want out of it. So giving advice is a difficult thing without understanding one's set of circumstances. I'm a one-on-one kind of guy in that way, I guess, like many other ways.
Yeah. Well, do you think you can still make a career, like, let's say, financially successful as a,
Well, that's
if it
why I just
just
said
not
everything I
like
just said.
sorry,
I think if you think
if
about
it,
everything I just said, you'd know the
but
answer to that
but
question.
but what do you think about it? Is it still possible, or maybe
It's not
not
that it's
really?
impossible. It's just not something you can depend upon or rely upon. It really requires a set of conditions that are a tall order. You have to create these conditions, and
Yeah,
how you do that is subject to your set of circumstances. So some people have no problem with it. Other people, it's forever elusive, and it's got no reflection on how talented or brilliant they are as an artist. It just means
yeah,
that's what they're actually brilliant at, and they're not actually brilliant at selling themselves or marketing themselves or doing business or interacting with people who can advance their careers, all this kind of stuff. And some people don't even care about that. Some people do. So it's difficult to know what advice to give without knowing who you're
without
giving it to.
yeah. Oh,
You know,
that's very good. That
yeah.
is yeah.
If someone's already in the thick of it, then I would have different advice for them than someone who wasn't, and had no
Yeah,
real reason to be,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Anyhow,
I mean, yeah,
that's
you
something
do
to
have
think
a
about,
career.
though,
That's
isn't it?
right. That that is true. I'm so like thinking, yeah, of course, because Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
You're
not for
right there.
everyone, right?
It's
Yeah,
not for everyone, but
it's not for everyone.
no, but it's got to be so like it suits you because you're just so like a free person. You're like
And I've committed
you know,
myself
to
to it
doing it.
suiting me and being someone it can suit. You know, it's and this is something that was sort of set into place a very long time ago. You know, for my own personal reasons, my own from my own set of circumstances. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
Aiden said it's a very intelligent answer regarding the advice for musicians. Yeah, that's right. So, but anyway, so it's after 8 o'clock,
Yeah,
and
I better run along. I think my
yeah,
battery's about to
thank
die,
you.
anyways. So there you go.
Well, they were just sort of like invite because you have mentioned about the Brian Jonestown Massacre gigs, and they would just sort of like say, do come or whatever, just invite our friends to go to your gigs or something, especially the one in September.
Well, I hope some people can
You.
come along. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the tickets aren't cheap because it's a festival. They're all festivals. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I think one or two of them might actually be a free festival. Come to think of it, so if you can make it, then please come on down. It'll be
Yeah.
a right old hoot, I'm sure. Yeah.
And your next city is Norway. So, oh no, you're going to Munich first, right? So
Yeah, but the
before
gigs in
that,
Norway. The next
the
gigs in
gigs in
Norway,
Norway.
in
Yeah,
Moss on June 10th. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Whoa, look at that. Okay, big. Wow. John's tractor just went by. Okay, darling. I'll catch you
Thank
later. I'll
you
see you in
so much,
Manchester.
Ricky.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I'll see
and
you. Yeah, see you
thanks to
soon.
everyone for being here with us. Have a good night or good day wherever you are in the world, whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Take care and see you around.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
nice
Ricky.
one.
Yeah.
Ciao.
See you. See you soon.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Oh God, that's just amazing. I really love Ricky Maymi. He's so cool, and you've seen him, and yeah, and like Aiden said, that was a really intelligent answer to that advice. It actually threw me off though. So, but anyways, thank you all so much for joining us today. I know it's not our usual Sunday one. Next week, I'm gonna be back in Glasgow on Sunday. So it's going to be on a Tuesday evening, I think, next week. So, but anyways, I will be posting it on the Ask the Drummer Facebook page. So please do keep an eye out for it. But anyways, thank you all so much. And as always, love music, love life, love drummers. Or in Ricky's case, multi instrumentist. I can't say it, I think anymore. But anyways, yeah. So I see you all next week. Bye for now. Bye. Thank you. Bye.